Okay, so good afternoon. Welcome once again for another edition of our Reading Club Forum. And for today, we do have a special guest. And we do hope na sana po, anyway, we do it hybrid. So it's face-to-face and online. And we already cross-post with the Public Information Office of Baguio City, and we do hope na sana i-accept nila yung cross-posting so that it will also be live through their Facebook page po. Okay, so for today's guest, okay, so naka-flash na po dyan yung kanyang topic. Okay, so Ibaloy's Reclaiming Baguio, the role of intellectuals. Okay, so ang speaker po natin ngayon is si Dr. Jimmy Fong, a professor of mass communication, University of the Philippines, Baguio. And of course, with his background, he is a graduate of Doctor in Philosophy in Philippine Studies from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, Master of Arts in Communication, specializing in journalism, University of the Philippines, Diliman also. He finished his Bachelor of Arts in Mass Communication from the University of the Philippines, Baguio. Okay, so makita po natin na talagang European po si Dr. Fong. Okay, so he worked as a Dean of College of Arts and Communication, University of the Philippines, Baguio, to present po. Siya po yung Dean ng college po. And Commissioner representing the Northern Philippine Cultural Communities, Commission sa Wikang Filipino, Office of the President, Republic of the Philippines in 2011 to 2016. And also he was Department Chair, Department of Communication, College of Arts and Communication in UP Baguio also. He was also the Director, Office of Public Affairs in the same university in 2006. And of course, not only that, he is very much qualified, at saka marami po siyang natapos. And he handled a lot of positions, okay? But he also have awards. So he was, in 2018, he was conferred the Gawad Chancellor, Chancellor. It should be, yeah, okay, so this should be Chancellor. Pinakamahusay na senior faculty. Okay. Also, he was given the Service Award of 30 years from University of Baguio. So, tagal na po ni Sir doon. And of course, he was a Centennial Distinguished Alumnus Award in Indigenous Culture and Music from Benguet State University in 2017. He also got an Achievement Award given by Benguet Foundation during the Benguet Foundation Anniversary in 2016. And he was a champion ng Wikang Filipino in 2016. He was also given International Publication Award in 2014, a Diamond Jubilee Professorial Chair in 2012, and of course, he was an awardee of the Most Outstanding Program promoting ng kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas in culture and the arts in the provincial area. He was also a UP System faculty grant from 2009 to 2011, and of course, he was also granted Young Scholar Grant recipient on the 7th Philippine Studies Conference in the Netherlands. Po? Tama na. Last na po, sir. He was a local faculty fellow in the University of the Philippines in 1990 to 2001. Last na po yun, sir. So, talaga naman po, marami pong qualification and yung ating guest for today. And without further ado, would like to welcome Dr. Jimmy Fong.
Thank you very much for the very generous introduction. Thank you, Mr. Zhang, for inviting me to this special activity. Thank you to our Baguio City Librarians for hosting this activity. Congratulations for hosting this activity, and congratulations for being online. So we'd like to greet our online audience. How are you, everyone? And thank you for watching. Would like to thank our face-to-face audience. Thank you for making it to the Baguio City Library this afternoon. So I suspect the title of the lecture this afternoon is Ibaloy's Reclaiming in quotation marks, and I will explain that later. Ibaloy's Reclaiming Baguio, the role of intellectuals. And I suspect that Mr. Zhang found me because he searched the internet, and so he found this article because this is actually available on the internet. So if you want to read the whole article, you just search the title and then Fong, and then this has been published by Plaridel. Plaridel is the publication of the College of Mass Communication at the University of the Philippines, Diliman. It is now an internationally recognized journal. So, I would like to share with you this afternoon some points that I placed in this article. So those are the details if you want to check the internet or online copy of the article. So for this afternoon, my outline will be, I'd like to talk about these three topics. Who are the Ibaloys? That's the first one. And then number two, what has happened in Baguio, which is the traditional ancestral area of the Ibaloys. And then what are the Ibaloys doing now in Baguio? And in relation to the title, they are trying to reclaim Baguio in quotation marks. That is the final part of the discussion. What are the Ibaloys doing now in Baguio? So let's go. So the Ibaloys, we can find the Ibaloys in the province of Benguet. So as you can see, the province of Benguet is found in the middle of northern. Hi. We can find the province of Benguet in the middle of northern Luzon. So it is landlocked because it's found in between La Union, Nueva Vizcaya, Ifugao, Ilocos Sur, Mountain Province, and then below is Pangasinan and La Union. So as you can see, it is locked in. It is surrounded by many of these provinces. But where are the Ibaloys? The Ibaloys are mostly found south of the province, so below. I'd like to say that the Benguet province is like the shape of a papaya. It's like the shape of a papaya. So below, at the bottom of the papaya, where you see the letters Benguet, that would be the traditional area of the Ibaloys. The lower part, southern part of Benguet. So we can also see some Ibaloys in the Nueva Vizcaya area, and some of them are also close to the lower part, which is the Pangasinan area. Now, where is Baguio here? Baguio is would be right here where the letters E and N. Letters E and N in Benguet. That would be Baguio. E and N. So that would be Baguio. Baguio looks like the center of the Ibaloy population. Before, traditionally, because that is the topic this afternoon. Why do I call this discussion Ibaloys reclaiming Baguio? Because they are already out of Baguio. In general, out of Baguio. So, yeah. So, from a wider perspective, the Ibaloy area will be that small space in northern Luzon. in northern Luzon, the red spot, but that is the province of Benguet. So Baguio is much smaller, in the middle of the red spot, the southern part of the red spot. These are also the colors associated with the Ibaloy: black, white, red, and black. But traditionally, the black color is really not really black. Indigo. It's like dark blue. But now maybe it's difficult to get the color indigo. So that's why at the market you will just see black and white, and then black, red, and white, and then some stripes or small lines of yellow or green. So I'd like for you to take note of that part of the reclaiming that the Ibaloy people are doing is the use of these colors, the use of this black, white, red, black, indigo in Baguio and also at Burnham Park. It's part of the, in a way, flag. It's part of the flag that the Ibaloys are waving in Baguio as part of the reclaiming of Baguio. So, Baguio. Where did this word come from, Baguio? There might not be many books in the Baguio City Library that would talk about how Baguio got its name. Do you have a book?
We have, but it's few.
Oh, very few. So how Baguio got its name? Because if you read it now, it's Baguio. You know the meaning in Ilocano? It is yours. Baguio. This is your Baguio. Baguio. Yes, but that is the way we now read the name. But actually, in the old books, it is recognized that Baguio should really be read as Baguio. Because Baguio is an Ibaloy word meaning moss or lumot or davoy. This would be the mosses that you can find on the trunks of pine trees, the green climbing. They look like green grass on the trees and also on the ground and also in canals like that. So it's the green creeping soft grass-looking plant. So that's Baguio in the Ibaloy language. So this word is recognized as the origin of this word Baguio. Because the reality is Baguio is part of the mossy forest. It's a mossy forest. If you look at the stone wall, cement, the moss would easily grow on the surfaces of cement, old trees. So because it's part of the Cordillera mossy forest. So the early writers on Baguio recognize Baguio as the origin of the word Baguio. So I also suspect that when they tried to write Baguio, they wrote it this way: B-A-G-U-I for gi, and then O for whoa. So I suspect they wanted to write it Baguio, but they were following like the English or Spanish spelling for gi, but like Aguinaldo, when they write Aguinaldo, A-G-U-I, but they can actually write it A-G-I, Aguinaldo. So like the Christmas song, Aguinaldo, pahingi ng Aguinaldo, G-I, but it's a strange spelling that we have adopted to write G with U, but we don't read it but Aguinaldo, we don't read it that way, but we read it Aguinaldo. So So I suspect that was they were trying to write Baguio, but they spelled the G with G-U-I, and then they put O instead of W. So now we read it as Baguio, but it should really be read Baguio. Of course, there are some Filipinos who cannot read who cannot pronounce this strange sound, like Paksiw. Some Filipinos cannot say Paksiw; they will say Paksio, Paksio, but it's Paksiw. So it's similar to the word Baguio. So we are now used to saying Baguio, Baguio, but it should have been Baguio. So, but it's originally an Ibaloy word. Of course, there are other people who say that the Burnham Park used to be Kafagway, but Kafagway was not used as the name of the city, maybe because it was referring to the grasslands around the Burnham Lake area. So they wanted to use a word that will capture the wider area. So it's the moss around the area that was dominant. So that is just to connect us to the history of Baguio, that traditionally it was the land of the Ibaloys. And this fact is recognized when the early organizers of the city used an Ibaloy word to name the city. So how many Ibaloys are there? How many Ibaloys are there? In 1908, Otto Shearer did a survey, and he counted 15,000 Ibaloys. But perhaps he included the population around Baguio, maybe Tubac, Itogon, and maybe La Trinidad, the municipalities around Baguio. So perhaps during this period, maybe the Ibaloys were like 90% of the population of Baguio. It could be 90%. Why is that significant? Because in the year 2000, according to our National Census Office, the Ibaloys in Baguio are now only about 3.9%. 3.9% of about 100,000 population for Baguio. So that's only about 3,900 in 2000. So from 90% at the start of the 20th century, when at the during the early years of the coming in of the Americans, from 90% to only about 4%. Now compare this to the Kankanangais, who are 11%, and Ilocanos are 44.5%. That is why when the Ilocanos they have a parade, there are very many, and then the Tagalogs are 20%. So we can see the decline in population of the Ibaloy people in Baguio. Why is this so? Because the story of the Ibaloys in Baguio can actually be summarized by the following words: dispersal, dislocation, displacement, disruption, decimation, alienation, disappearance, absence, silence. So they were dispersed, they were pushed away because the Americans needed to make a market, they needed to put up government buildings, they needed to put Burnham Park, they needed to put Mansion House, the Governor General's house. So the Ibaloy people in Baguio were pushed out because the Ibaloys wanted to take care of pigs at the market area, but of course the American government did not like pigs moving around the new city, because they wanted to build a city beautiful. The framework for the building of Baguio City was the City Beautiful framework. It has to be beautiful. Okay? So they didn't want the animals roaming around the city. So of course the Ibaloys did not like that. So I think they voluntarily or they were forcefully displaced out of the city of Baguio, and they are now they now live at the edges of the city. In Filipino, we call it laylayan, at the margins of the city. So they're at the Luacan area, Happy Hollow area, not on Session Road, not at the center of the city. So for me, it's a sad story. It's a sad story for the Ibaloys. So this is why I titled the lecture Ibaloys Reclaiming, because now they're trying to come back, not because they want to take back Burnham Park, take back City Hall, take back John Hay, take back Session Road, take back the market. No, so it is not that kind of taking back, but it's symbolic. it's a kind of a symbolic reclamation. So. In general, it's okay if they parade on Session Road. It's okay if they play their gongs and they dance the tayaw at Burnham Park. That is their way of reclaiming Baguio. Because recently, have you heard of the news about Casa Vallejo? The Casa Vallejo area one time figured in the news because some old Ibaloy families wanted to take back the area where Casa Vallejo is, Hill Station now. So because of certain laws like the Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act that empowered the indigenous peoples, so I think they tried the Ibaloy families who owned the lot before the Americans wanted to take it back. Literally take it back, not symbolically. They want to take it back, but I don't know what happened to the case. Maybe they lost because Casa Vallejo is still there, and the original Ibaloy owners are no longer there. So they have been displaced, dispossessed, dislocated. So that's why we only have 3.9% Ibaloys in Baguio now. I hope it has increased, but maybe not. Yeah. So they're trying to come back, but not taking over the lands. It's by parading, playing their gongs, waving their clothing around the city. So what do we have now? What do we have now? We have an Ibaloy Heritage Garden. It's the space after the Children's Park right here. So the City Library and then the Children's Park, and then there's a vacant lot. That's the Ibaloy Heritage Garden, and we have the Orchidarium or the flower area. How did this happen? Before we go there, I'd like to point out that at the Baguio, at the Ibaloy Heritage Garden, we now have a monument. What is this monument? This is a language monument. So this is the Ibaloy Language Monument. It's a project between the Ibaloy community in Baguio and the Commission on the National Language, and with Senator Ligarda. So this is the project of Senator Ligarda to put language monuments all over the country. So the Ibaloy Language Monument is among the first to be put up around the country. We still don't have the monument for the Kankanay language. We still need to put up the Kalangoya Language Monument. We still don't have them in their respective places. But we have the Ibaloy Language Monument at the Ibaloy Heritage Garden. So how did we get the Ibaloy Heritage Garden? It's 1 hectare after the Children's Park. So I suggest that the acquisition of the Ibaloy Heritage Garden was due to the work of Baguio Ibaloy intellectuals. So at the Baguio Ibaloy Heritage Garden, the former editor of the Baguio Midland Courier, Cecile Carino Hamada, her big photo is up there because she is recognized to be among those who had been leading the Ibaloy community in Baguio to lobby at the Baguio City Hall for the declaration of that area as the Ibaloy Heritage Garden. So, but before that, before the Ibaloy community was given the opportunity to occupy that space, they were having their meetings here at the Baguio Athletic Bowl. They would have their reunions there at the Baguio Athletic Bowl. So those meetings were the start of the movement to symbolically reclaim the city. So because of the movement of the Ibaloy community being led by the leaders of Baguio who educated themselves before, they took on the leadership to lead the Ibaloy community to lobby at the City Hall for that space to be declared as the Ibaloy Heritage Garden. But before that, the City Council declared February 23 as Ibaloy Day in the city of Baguio. That was on September 28, 2009. So this resolution declared February 23 as Ibaloy Day in the city of Baguio. What is the significance of February 23? It is the date when the U.S. Supreme Court recognized the legitimacy of Mateo Carino's struggle for native title and to give due recognition to the original indigenous inhabitants of the city. So that is the reason placed there. Now, when was the city established? Do you know? What is in the what year is on the seal of Baguio City? 1901. No, it's not 1901. It's 1908.
1909 yata yun.
1909. 1909. Yeah, 1909. So, on February 23, 1909, the U.S. Supreme Court recognized native title for Mateo Carino for some parts of the city as native title. The native title meaning, since time immemorial, those people were operating the land before the Americans came. So that was what the U.S. Supreme Court recognized. So they call that native title. Parang you are the original occupant. They recognize that you are the original occupant. So that was February 23, 1909. Baguio City was organized September 1 of the same year. So that was just February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. 7 months after the U.S. Supreme Court, the Americans in the city made the boundaries for the city of Baguio. And they got some lands from Cuba, from Itogon. That's why Baguio City goes far to Santo Tomas, to Ambiong of La Trinidad, and then that part of Luacan. So they made a line to demarcate, to mark the boundaries of the city. So, and then they made the lands declared by the U.S. Supreme Court as part of the city of Baguio. But before September 1, on February 23, the U.S. Supreme Court said some of those lands should not be part of the city of Baguio because they were owned by some Ibaloy families. So when people speak at the park now, they say that the Americans violated their own Supreme Court because they should not have declared all of the lands in Baguio City as part of the city of Baguio boundary, because the U.S. Supreme Court already declared it 7 months before. Anyway, so that is the reason why we have a city resolution. So now the Ibaloys are dancing, playing their gongs, having their festival at the Ibaloy Heritage Garden. That was declared as the Ibaloy Heritage Garden on August 16, 2010, 1 year after the declaration of the February 23 as Ibaloy Day. So that has been declared, it's 1 hectare that has been declared as Ibaloy Heritage Garden, and it's also the site of the Mateo Carino Monument. Up to now, we still don't have the Mateo Carino Monument. But we have the Ibaloy Language Monument. So, just to conclude this part, of course, the lobbying, the persuading the officials of the city to declare this as Ibaloy Heritage Garden, and then to allow the Ibaloys to perform their rituals, to play their gongs, to dance their traditional tayaw, to meet, to hold their fellowship or adivay at that place, happened because of the effort, the work, the paperwork of Ibaloy leaders who educated themselves and who learned how to deal with the local government, to convince the leaders of the city to give them the privilege to reclaim, to take back the city, even if it is just once a year, or even if it is just a month-long festival in October because it is Indigenous Peoples Month, or even if they just provide the place for the Ibaloys to meet, because they can no longer literally take back their lands in the city. Okay, let me share with you other Ibaloy experiences. So the building of the Luacan Airport also displaced many Ibaloy families. Because the Luacan Airport, by the way, it's going to function again this month. Because the Luacan Airport needs a big area so you can have a runway. So the Ibaloy people in Luacan are still feeling sad that they had to give up their lands for the airport. The Philippine Military Academy is also a wide area, and of course the area was expropriated from parts of Ibaloy lands. Why do we have electricity? Because of Ambuklao Dam. Ambuklao Dam is in Bukod, and Bukod is also traditionally Ibaloy area. So many Ibaloy families were displaced from Bukod, and some of them were sent to Palawan, some of them were sent to Mindanao. So I'm trying to illustrate this Ibaloy experience of dislocation and dispersal, because they had to give way for government projects to serve the general Philippine population. The Baguio Export Processing Zone is also a wide area, and many Ibaloy families are claiming that those were some parts of their ancestral areas. Marcos Highway, a big area, that's also traditional Ibaloy land. And then we have mines like Philex, Benguet Corporation, Western Minoco Corporation, in Agok. Those are areas that Ibaloy families had to give up because of development projects. So because of these development projects, we can really summarize the Ibaloy experience as one of dislocation, dispersion, moving away, going somewhere else, to give way, to development, in the name of development. So now what's happening? Will be what's happening among the Ibaloy communities in Baguio will just be memory. You know, they just recall. long time ago, that used to be our pasture land. A long time ago, that used to be our cemetery, our burial grounds. That used to be. So it's all in the memory now. It's all now part of memory. And when they meet, they just recall. So there's long time ago, that used to be our pig pen. Long time ago, that used to be our pasture land for our cows. Long time ago, that used to be our playground. Long time ago, that used to be our rice fields. Long time ago, we used to plant kamote. So it is all long time ago. Before. In the past. It's just like that now. It's just like that. So so that is why I put the word reclaiming in quotation marks, because it's just, when they meet together, it is just recalling, going back to memory, to the past, and retelling and just telling each other the stories. It's just stories. Just telling each other the story that long time ago, that was our playground, that was our rice field, that was our pasture land. Yeah. It's just long time ago. in the form of stories. Yeah. So and then because of education, many Ibaloys now don't speak the language like many other people, because we went to school. In school, they will punish you. They will punish you if you speak your original language. They will fine you. You have to pay. So we have been punished to forget our language. So when they meet, they try to recall their language. They learn the language again. So it's, yeah, and then they recall parts of the rich culture a long time ago, when they had the tattooing, batak. So these are part of the stories that they tell each other. So the Ibaloy batak or tattoo is full body from the head to the toes. Because if you have tattoo, maybe it's just on one side like this, maybe here, maybe here, but the bodies, the preserved bodies of some Ibaloys show us that the tattooing was full body. Now, why is this significant? Because we don't know, we are not aware of any form of writing by the Ibaloys, even the Kankanais, even most of the indigenous peoples in the northern Luzon. No recognized form of writing, traditional form of writing. I'd like to say that while we do not see a traditional form of writing, I think this is the writing. Yeah. because you can read what the person did. Maybe the person was a hunter and he went to that mountain, and maybe he caught those animals. So we have animal figures on the tattoo. So that is the form of writing of the indigenous peoples a long time ago. Yeah. And it is now forgotten. Not when you have your tattoo, it will be henna tattoo. It is not the traditional way to do the tattooing. So to finish, the Ibaloy people can no longer take back their lands here in Baguio. They cannot take back the Burnham Park, no more. They will not win, I think. Even if they go to court, to the Supreme Court, maybe the Supreme Court will say no, they cannot. So, what can they do? They can only dance. They can only dance at Burnham Park or parade on Session Road. Or they can just learn their language again with those who know how to teach the language, teaching them. And they can tell their stories about what their ancestors did, what their ancestors made, their material culture, their baskets, their wooden plates, their harvesting tools, their carrying backpacks, carrying baskets, etc. So it's all now in the form of telling stories, telling each other stories, stories of the past, stories of rich culture in the past, stories of heroes in the past, so that they can feel that once upon a time they lived here in Baguio. Okay. Thank you very much. You can read more, or you can read more on these Ibaloy experiences. This one is a very long story on Ibaloy history, culture, customs, and tradition on the internet in uotisphere.com, and also the Plaridel article. So we can have conversation and question and answer. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So we would like also to encourage those watching online that they can ask questions din po. We can read naman po. If you have any questions, then you may ask, and then we will ask po si sir. So for those who are here, if you would like to ask questions, then you may do so. Ask na po kayo habang nandito na po si sir.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyhow, sir, here at the library, we have a local history collection, a section supposedly that we have to, to have the resources about Baguio City, and we would be very grateful if only writers would submit also their articles, their works here at the Baguio City Public Library for the reference na po na madagdagan po yung reference po ng local history section, because I believe as a public library, yun po dapat ang meron sa amin.
Do you have Shiva?
Yes, sir. We have Shiva.
Do you have the Ibaloy dictionary? The big Ibaloy dictionary?
Very sad, sir. We do not have.
We'll see.
Yes, sir. So, if ever po, actually, sa Mount Cloud lang po kasi ako kumukuha ng mga resources, and we hope na sana more na ma-acquire ang Mount Cloud, so that one time po kasi we know naman sa government how it is in the government that we cannot just go to the bookstore and buy. Hindi po ganon. So, it will all go through the procurement law po. And nabanggit niyo po kanina that Ibaloys cannot reclaim the land already, but I believe na there is a parang meron yatang action.
They're still working on it.
I see. So saan na po yan? So mga ilang ano pa po yun?
We don't know.
How many generations?
Yeah.
Yeah, even but I heard na meron pong action ang mga Ibaloys to talagang ano. So I was thinking nung article niyo, sir, na it's reclaiming, although it's in quotation. Parang sabi ko na po, parang ano kasi agpagpaigid dun dati po, di ba? Dadan si igid, yung sabi kanina ni sir, na talagang nasa outskirts na sila, nasa gilid na. So, wala eh. Baka naman kasi binenta nila, sir, yung kanilang mga ano. That's possible po.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so parang nagiging ano, even here in Baguio, we could also, alam naman natin that this is already the melting pot, no, of
Yes.
different cultures.
Yeah.
So it's not only the Ibaloy, but then
Yes.
of course, meron pa rin talaga, like let's say yung Panagbanga. And then in Benguet, you celebrate the Adibay, and still ongoing po. So there's still those traditions or those celebrations for the generation, itong generation na to, wherein we can pass them yung mga informations na, or yung mga traditions, practices, yung mga cultural practices, and even yung proper way of, dressing up. So, dapat nakikita. So, sana po na continuous po yung mga celebrations natin ito so that we will, let's say, give more awareness, no? Awareness and information sa mga generations ngayon and then for the coming generations so that they could also pass. Pero sir, I would, kasi yung mga, let's say yung mga mga kabataan na ngayon na yung nag-play ng mga instruments. So we do hope also na sana meron yung parang magtuturo din sa kanila itong mga kabataan so that when there is a celebration, makikita na din natin na it's not only the adult or the older people who are playing this instrument, pero the younger generations din po. So, we know naman na, let's say, ang talagang dito sa Baguio or the Ibaloys talaga, di po ba, sir? So, ano pong mga sir, are you part of the association po ng Ibaloy? So ano naman po yung mga gagawin po ninyo? Although you cannot reclaim na ano yung nasabi ninyo, pero ano po ba yung mga steps ninyo or yung actions that you are planning to dwell into para naman po hindi pa rin naman makalimutan na ang Ibaloys are here sana sa Baguio, no po?
Yes, thank you, ma'am, for those comments. And most of them are valid comments and observations. So at the Baguio Heritage Garden, the Ibaloy community is trying to have regular activities and teaching sessions on language learning, playing of instruments, dancing, traditional crafts, indigenous plants, naming indigenous plants and the use of indigenous plants. So those things. So last October, we just had a month-long festival about genealogy. Because one feature of indigenous peoples is we are conscious of where we came from. Lolo, if you're Lolo, which many other Filipinos don't have that memory. But indigenous peoples in general have a long memory of the generations. So that was the feature of the festival last October. But yes, we want to regularly hold teaching sessions on learning the language, learning the instruments, using the dress or attire properly, all of those. So incidentally, maybe the public information is not very widespread. So, but we are also on Facebook.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, so thank you, sir. So, actually, hindi rin po kami aware about yung mga ginagawa po ninyo or yung mga activities. So, I believe na it's high time na ano po yung Facebook page ninyo, sir? Meron po ba?
On John
de Ibadoy. Okay, so on John de Ibadoy. Okay, on John ni Ibadoy. Okay po, so yun po yung kanilang Facebook page. So sana like din po natin yung kanilang Facebook page para naman po ma-update po tayo sa mga activities po. And then maybe if you are yung interest po natin, maybe we can join yung mga activities po na ginagawa po nila. And a while ago, sir, nabanggit po ninyo regarding sa genealogy. Actually, dito meron din po kasi kaming soon to be, so hopefully na madonatan ng church ang City Library ng computer and the scanner that we can use. Kasi beside doon sa local history, magkakaroon po yung family search, yung apps na po na ginagamit. So hopefully po, Kasi actually sir, maraming pumupunta rin dito na looking for yung ano po yung list namin na, or do you have reference about somebody na dito sa Baguio daw. So I said wala talaga kami eh. That's why we partnered with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Yung family search po, yun po. So eventually meron naman na po kami dito you can use, pero hopefully pag let's say matuloy yung kanilang donation, then we'll have a corner po for the family search wherein we do hope na sana we can partner also with the Onjon so that they can also provide ano yung kanilang mga genealogy. Of course, ang app naman po na yon kapag ka-living pa po yung tao, hindi yun masa-search. Yun naman po. It's only personal lang po yun na makikita po nila yung connection. Doon po nila masu-search. Yun po, pero they cannot, let's say kung living yung ano, hindi pa rin. Unless na, let's say related sa'yo. Yun po yung explanation naman po yung family search app na yun. Pero kung let's say wala na dito yung tao, then it can be access na po yun. So maganda po yun kasi we would like also to see yung connection din po kasi na from Mateo Carino, pero it doesn't start from Mateo Carino. Meron pa po. I saw po yung nakita ko po yung list ng genealogy from nasa Trinidad po siya, si Ma'am I forgot her name. Pero si Mama, nakita ko po yung genealogy na ginawa nila. It's a scroll, although naka-handwritten pa rin, so it's original. Doon ko nakita na Mateo Carino is just part lang po siya. So hindi siya, meron pa po. So it would be nice if we have that here in Baguio City Public Library for the people to be informed that here in Baguio, ito yung genealogy ng mga hindi naman original. Yung mga tao na talagang nandito, yes, in Baguio City. So sabihin man natin original kasi we cannot, I guess, parang, kasi pag sinabi natin original, so parang sinasabi natin na sila lang talaga. Hindi pa kasi natin talaga alam kung talagang sila pa yung nauna. But anyhow, they are the settlers, kumbaga talaga ng Baguio City. So we would like also na malaman din yung mga yon as well as the public. Meron na lang yung pupunta dito, sir, nasasabihin na lang na do you have po yung kasi yung lola ko dito daw nakatira eh.
Yeah.
Yung mga ganon.
Yeah.
Tapos nabanggit daw yung pangalan niya sa libro na ganito. So I guess it's if they do research, you see the importance of having these resources. Kaya we do hope na sana if the family search corner will be soon we could partner with the Onjon Ibadoy ni Ibadoy so that marami po malalaman pa po, mas wider po yung information dissemination of the settlers here in Baguio City.
Family search.
Yes po,
That's a better and more understandable way to put genealogy.
Yes.
Family search.
Okay, so more questions? You have any? Yes, sir.
Well, actually, I'm very interested for the early time of the Spanish to American colonizing transition time, and then early time of the American like making the city in Baguio. That process time of that in Spanish time, so it's like administration. The unit was the basic unit was they call barangay. And I wondering during 1900 time, Spanish time, how many barangay in Baguio, and then American time, how change the barangay system to Americanize to process of the changing. For example, maybe the Baguio was just the top of the Benguet.
Yes.
Center was La Trinidad,
Yes.
and then the small family maybe we do Matthew, Carinio clan to as center, And then several family was gathering the another business, cattle business, something they with gold have been this area. So my interest is how the barangay, the unit was changed from the Spanish time to the American time, early time, and then possible to tracking for the modern time when barangay became the 120 barangay. And there's no actually outline of the study yet. So as you know the something, can please explain?
Yes, yes, that's a very interesting question. Also because most of the time when people talk about the history of Baguio, it starts with just the American period. So which is not always true, because it is as though it is true, of course, that the Americans created the city. Okay, the Spanish government did not create the Baguio. So Baguio really, truly, historically, it was created by the American government. Okay, so the city of Baguio, including the documents for the creation of the city of Baguio, it was so. Baguio City is really an American creation. Okay, so during the Spanish time there was no Baguio City. That is true, of course. But the family records tell us that the people in Baguio had relatives outside Baguio City. That is true. The boundaries before were not very clear, like that this is what first barangay, second barangay. There was no such thing. Maybe they only had villages. By the way, the Ibaloys don't live very close to each other, unlike the other indigenous communities, where the houses are very close to each other. But the Ibaloys try to live away from each other, I think for two reasons. Their animals need a wider area to eat the grass. And then also they were trying, it's like quarantine. You don't live close to each other so that when somebody gets sick, you are not infected. So yeah, so they have the history of diseases before. So you have to live far away from each other, not too close. But in the Ibaloy, in some Ibaloy historical accounts, no barangay. I think barangay is a Tagalog concept. Yeah. Traditionally, no very strict boundaries, because people moved from one area to the other. So the barangay is a modern, I think it's a modern invention. Because the barangays in the Philippines were created only during President Ferdinand Marcos's time. So 1970s, when they made the barangays. Yeah. So they had Kabataang Barangay of Ivy Marcos. So that's a very new phenomenon, new geographical creation of boundaries. 1970s. Before it was just town, sitio.
Barrio, sir.
And barrio. So barrio. So and then during President Marcos' time, the barrio became barangay. But the name barangay maybe is old from a long time ago. But it was only used as geopolitical units in the 1970s during the old Marcos Senior's time. Yeah.
So
I don't know if I answered your question.
It's like Ibaloy perspective of geological location concept. Early time, they have to some the cosmological the location to interconnect the understanding of the geographical location is totally
Yes.
different with the American
Yes.
created with the like American style of their city planning
Yes,
to
yes,
making
yes.
the location.
That's true.
So I'm interested in
I
this barangay concept also very modern,
Yes.
and then the not related to the American the like city planning
No more, yeah.
concept.
No more.
So before the barangay created, and then American time, what kind of day division was? Each day?
Yeah, barrio.
So barrio is the evaluate concept, or what?
No.
What meaning of the evaluate they understanding of the boundary concepts?
Yeah.
Do they call this the yours? This is ours, or this is your clan, or it's our clan?
Okay.
How they
Yeah.
made the boundary, and how they will handle with that ownership.
Very interesting question. Yeah. What we have in Ibaloy and also in Calcana is ili. That's our ili, but it's a very loose concept. We go to our ili, so meaning hometown, but hometown can be small, can be wider, can be very wide. So it depends where you are. If you are in Manila, you say, I will go home to my ili. But your ili is like the whole of Benguet. And then when you are in Baguio, I'll go home to my ili. You go home to a small village. Yeah.
I want to
So
say-
yeah, it's a very loose concept.
Oh, okay. But
But-
that's the Ibalo side of the like that time only time. But my interesting is more the American. During the they making the created the as city, and then that time they also need the administration management system and the bringing to the here. And then during the bringing to here, they saw the already there's something or whatever was the city or whatever the
Yeah.
community already existing there. But during the making the city time, the edge of the
Yeah.
city, the American the officers and they call the committee of the city
Yeah.
builders. They discussion about it, how will be the divided the location in Baguio town
Yeah.
area, and then they saw some of the already existing the term of the location of the name to using the evaluate term. But some location is like whatever we mentioned about the city beautiful concept. They making the monument for the American,
Yeah.
glory for the American to making the some name the already still existing the several name of the famous American contribution. The symbolical the heroes names in here still many even street also same.
Yes.
So geographical division also same. So that's a mixing together. Evaluate the already existing the term of the geological concept, and then also American creative also new street name and all this location, the division of the name is mixing together. How the understanding and this process of the survey can make it.
Yeah, you have a very interesting question and interesting point, but I don't have an answer. But yeah, when they made the city, it was just one space like that. But also the Americans in Baguio City recognized the Ibaloy names of the places in Baguio. So for example, Luacan is still there, Irisan is still there, Gisad and Kisad are still there, Pakdal are still there. Because in other places it's Barangay 1, Barangay 2, Barangay 3, Barangay 1, 2, 4, but numbers. But in fairness to the Americans, they recognized the names of the places. They did not change the names of the places. So Luacan, Kisad, Pakdal, those as names of the barangays now. Yeah, and of course they use the English names, Session Road, Governor Park Road, but there's also Abanao Street, which is Ibaloy word, Utek Street, Chagam Street. So we also have those Ibaloy names. But yeah, I think your point is you want to know the history. How did we have the 129 barangays of Baguio City? That is a very new, very recent, modern concept. Yeah.
So even though the pronunciation of the day, actually American the Committee of the City Planners, they agree with that, they highly respect also the traditional way of the geographical
Yes.
the Ibaloy term, but they also translate to the English version. So there's something the gapping. How they translate exactly the Ibaloy to the American term to the translated. There's something misunderstanding, something the twisted name of the calling, but anyway already fixed with the modern times of the name. This kind of the how can I say the terminology of the story of the origin and then how develop change it. Also very important one to understand.
Yeah.
In the modern
I wish we had the records here at the library. But that is what we know now. We have some place names in Baguio that are Ibaloy names, and there are also American names. That is what we know only. But we. I mean, I am glad that we still have the Ibaloy names there. They have not been changed. They have not been changed entirely. Yeah. So yeah. So I think we can only count Session Road, Governor Park Road. Magsaysay Avenue would be Filipino, and national heroes, Filipino presidents' names. Tracoville is Lukban traditionally. Aurora Hill is already Quezon because Aurora is the wife of President Quezon. But I don't know if I'm addressing your question, but it's your questions are interesting, and maybe we don't have the answers.
I was looking for during that time city planning they have committee include that time of the Ibaloy leadership too.
Oh, that's
So that time they have
That's
the
right.
American they
Yes.
like the record.
yes,
So
that's
there's
right.
no record actually.
That's right.
But I don't know where it is. But the mention about that from the one of the general governors.
That's
General governors had some mention about we had a discussion about it. We recorded it, and then we have respected also the bring to the term of the geographical already they are called something. To do that, we adapted, and they also new change some of the American thing to bring to here. And then there's something record. I'm looking to like
Yeah, that is true. The charter, the charter of the city. I don't know if you have a copy here, but in the charter of the city, there is really an item there about local Igorot council. That there should be a local Igorot council that will advise the city government on certain things. So in the 1930s, 1920s, there was an Igorot council that advised or that was consulted for some issues. So I think during that time there was such a council, but later on we don't see the council being created and working together with the city government. But in the original document of the city charter, the constitution of the city charter, there is such a provision about having a local Igorot council that will assist the city government in making decisions for the city. So So that is one issue that the Ibaloi community is now trying to look at, because the city charter says there should be a local Igorot council, but we don't have it now. And then there is a new law about indigenous peoples mandatory representative that is now the concern of the indigenous peoples in the city, how they can be represented at the city council. And I hope I am giving you answers, but maybe later.
I guess, sir, I don't know also if I can, no. I mean, just an input, no? So, you were asking how they're going to determine on what, let's say, this location, on this location and this location. Of course, when we go back, of course, there were no barangays or those were not the term before. Just like, let's say, example, I don't know if I am right, Mateo Carino, how was he able to, from hearsay sa kanyang mga, that he owns Burnham Park, John Hay. So, what I understand, from my point of understanding of the, let's say yung mga, from the readings, no? They determine that yung location, their location, if they have tilled the land, they were the ones taking good care of that area. So maybe that's the way how they did that before. And of course, as the Americans, as the other people are coming here to invade this location, so maybe they have introduced that we have to call this by this name, just like Baguio, it's Baguio, but actually it's Baguio. So that's it. So that it became already a pronunciation wherein it is mostly pronounced even the foreigners who are here. So maybe, just like you were mentioning a while back, the names of the barangays, because we go through also, I also read some of the history of the barangays, and the names of the barangays were also named after the Ibaloi term actually. So it's not let's say Chanom Street, it's Chanom, it's water. So that's how they got their name. Maybe, let's say, because there are a lot of maybe watery area on that, that's why they named it Chanom. And then Otec Street. So maybe they're small. It means small circle, but it's small. That's why they named after that also. So there are still names that are existing that we root back through the Ibaloi term actually. But then they were already pronounced, and let's say the spelling was already changed in order for most people to understand and pronounce it properly. And of course, we have a government. We have a government who can issue laws, and we are bounded by laws, executive orders, administrative orders. In, let's say, on this city, on what are the boundaries of this city, and of course the division. So I guess we are already covered by laws. So, any more questions? Any more questions? Sir, you might want to say something also.
One thing is very interesting. One is the American build the city as the health resort here, but it's not for the actually the Ibaloi people, right? It's for the American official people, the lowland in Manila. So for the seasonal, move to the more cool air, to visiting here to some the enjoy of the weather. So that meaning not only that one, actually the issue was also the mining. It's a gold mining company still settled here. During that time was a lot of foreigners. Actually 1910 is very peak time of the already known this area of the as a health resort, and that time was foreigners, the population was increased. So seems like walking around in the Baguio, then other location in Philippines. So mostly the foreigners moving around the city areas, many the location, and they are stay there, and some they eating, and there's some playing and around there. So what do you think that time was the American and also European whatever the other foreign population was very much increased, and then many foreigners walking around, and they need many the system of the supporting like vegetable or what have they have to using many things like to supply from the locality. So actually there's no statistics to how many that period time is foreigners the increase, and how many evaluate people dislocated, and then how the related to this foreign population increase and decrease the evaluate people in this area. So actually in Baguio is like foreigner city, became the foreigner city that time, or evaluate city.
If you look at the old pictures, you will see the Ibaloys at the sides, at the sides. They are not at the center. The people at the center are the business people, and they're wearing like. But of course, the photos are black and white. But you will only see the Ibaloy women at the side with their baskets because they went to bring their produce to sell at the market. But they are not the sellers at the market. They were just bringing their goods, as you said. The locals were the ones who produced the vegetables that the foreigners and the new residents need for their food. But yeah, but you are right. That is the history of several cities around the world where the colonizers looked for places where they can rest and where they can have recreation. So you are right that the city of Baguio, one reason why the city of Baguio was made was for rest and recreation for the American population who are not used to the very hot Philippine weather. So they look for a high place or high elevation areas where the climate can be cooler. But of course, in those areas, they need food, they need materials which the locals can provide. Yeah, so we need to go back to the records to find out when the Ibaloy population decreased and when the foreign population and migrants population also increased. Yeah, I think that's a very interesting study to trace the change in population. Yeah.
Okay, so any more questions? Question pa kayo? I don't see any questions online. It's only reactions po yung mga nandun po. Okay, so I guess so from here, we would like to say thank you. Okay, so we would like to say thank you to Dr. Pong, and may we have you this as a certificate of appreciation, as a token of gratitude for being an esteemed guest by sharing your valuable knowledge and expertise during the Reading Club Forum on reclaiming Baguio, the role of intellectuals held at the Baguio City Public Library, given this 26th day of November. And of course, sir, may konting pa-thank you lang po kami. It's really very, very simple. Pasensya na po, ito lang po ang nakayanan ng Baguio City Public Library po.
You don't need to give me this, but I like it.
Sir, maganda na pong balot.
Thank you very much. Yeah. My pleasure.
Okay, so, yan po. Yan, thank you, sir.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir, and thank you very much also sa mga nandito na let's say patuloy na nakikinig pa rin and for continuing support for this reading forum. So we do hope na we will grow in numbers, na hindi lamang po kami ang mga nandito, but then we would like also to extend invitation because when we have these people, we invite guests, they just don't talk about anything, but then these are informations that I guess we need to know and we need to understand because it's part of history. And sa mga online po, anyhow, we understand if you cannot come here, but we would like to say thank you for those who are watching with us, and thank you very much po. Although we already know about these things, but then we need to be informed again. I mean, to be reminded of kung ano yung Baguio talaga, no po. So, like nabanggit po kanina ni Sir, marami pa pong mga activities naman na ginagawa ang Onjon ni Ibadoy. So, I guess na sana po we can also join your activity and perhaps in the future we'll have also partnership po. Okay, so thank you very much, of course, to Stephen and Kurt and Jobet, who are always with us during this reading forum. So with that, we would like to say good afternoon po and see you again for the next reading forum.